This video will walk you through the Milestone 3 template. You don't have to use this template for this week 5 assignment. You are welcome to use the prompt in the module and look at the rubric to find directions if you prefer that style. Many students prefer the template, so I'm going to go over that template with you. So remember, you're not going to delete anything in this template. Okay. The first thing you need to do is put your name. I'm putting a fake name. Okay. And then watch this video. Okay. If you're going along, hopefully you are, with your own template and kind of trying to fill out what you can based on this video, go ahead and pause this video and then watch that one. That might help. Okay. All right, and now we're going to assume you have watched that video. Okay. The first question says, state the question you will pursue in the box to the right. This should be copied and pasted from the list of questions and should be the same question submitted in weeks 2 and 3 unless you've changed your question. So I would go back to my template. Okay. From week 2, and let's say I'm doing the first question, I would just copy and paste, copy this and paste it. Since I'm doing something a little different, my example had the candy, so I'm going to copy it from down below. Okay. So my project is, does the color of holiday M&Ms affect the weight? Of course, yours will be entirely different. Okay. Question 3 says, what test or analysis technique will you perform? Okay. And you may not be 100% sure at this point. You might want to do a little research ahead. This one's the tough one. Unless you get this one correct, the rest of your work is kind of going to be for naught. So you really want to make sure you pick the correct one. So it's highly recommended that you choose only one test or technique. This is just an introductory biostatistics class. I recommend you focus on one test and get that one test correct. So here's some examples. You don't have to pick one of these. You might find another one that works better, but these are some examples. A 1-sample t-test, a 2-sample independent t-test, a paired t-test, linear regression, etc. Okay, pick the one that's most relevant to your question of interest in data. Okay. So again, I would only pick one. Okay, and you might want to do some research, figure out what some of these things are if you don't know. Okay. All right. I'm actually comparing two groups, my green and red M&M group. And I'm trying to see if there are any differences in weight. So 1-sample t-test would group all of those together and just compare the mean of those to some predetermined number. So that's not really what I want to do. I want to compare two groups. Is it a paired t-test? Well, is there an M&M from the green group that's automatically paired with an element from the red group? That doesn't really make any sense. The green and red M&Ms aren't just paired. They're just haphazardly put into the same bag. Okay? So for me, since my two groups are not paired, a 2-sample independent t-test makes the most sense. And I'm actually just going to copy and paste. I love to use copy and paste when I can. 2-sample independent t-test. Okay. Now again, you might be picking something totally different. Okay, so please figure out which one you do and type it in there. Now for number 4, there is a hypothesis test associated with doing your test or technique. Even if you're not doing a t-test, there's a hypothesis test associated with your technique. Okay. What is your null hypothesis? That's what we're doing for number 4. So this should be specific to the test or technique you chose. If this doesn't change based on the technique you chose, then you're not picking something specific enough. And it should involve at least one parameter. Okay? For example, do not do something like gender does not influence length of stay for MI patients. Okay? That's not specific to any statistical technique and shouldn't be used here. Okay? For my particular example, I'm looking at green and red M&Ms. I'm going to say something like the mean green is equal to the, trying to do a lowercase u. I can go into and get a mu for the mean, the statistics symbol. I'm not super concerned. If you use a lowercase u, I'll know what you mean. I am going to put those in subscripts make the red a subscript. If you're in Microsoft Word, you can go up here to the top, see where there's an X with a 2 below, make that a subscript. And the mu will mean, mu green equals mu red. And I'll say where, kind of want to define it, the mean of what? Mu red, or I'll say the mean weight of the red, say M&Ms is equal to mu red. Get lowercase m's here. And I'm actually just going to copy this part. And the mean weight of green M&Ms. So I'm just defining my terms here. I want to make it very clear what I mean. So I'll make that subscript again. So my null hypothesis is mu green equals mu red, where the mean weight of red M&Ms is equal to mu red, and the mean weight of green M&Ms is equal to mu green. Oh, I've got the and the subscripts, and I don't really want that, so I'm going to go up here and unsubscript that. Okay. And that should suffice. Okay. And your alternative hypothesis, here I don't really have a direction. I'm just going to use a not equal. And if there's any reason you can't find the not equal sign, you can go to many different places like the equation editor and put a not equal sign. There's symbols, okay, that you can find up here that's perfectly fine. If you're just struggling with that, you can just type in not equal. That is fine with me. Okay. And if you already put up here where you defined your terms, you don't need to define them again right below it. That's perfectly fine. But these hypotheses are very specific to an independent samples t-test. Okay. All right, number 6, how will your technique or test help you answer your question of interest? So this should include the basic purpose of the chosen test or technique, and it should be specific to the test or technique. Okay. For example, the purpose of a one-sample t-test is to compare a population mean to a value. If you're having two groups that you want to compare, you don't just want to say, I want to compare two groups, because there are many, many, many different tests to help you compare two groups. Specifically, I will say something like, this test will allow me to compare the means of the red and green groups. So I'm being very specific and talking about independent samples t-tests help me compare the means. Okay. And if I want to be even more specific, I'm going to say population means. Okay. Because it would be really weird, right, if the actual samples that I have gave off exactly equal means. That would be really odd to find all those computations turned out to be exactly the same for both groups, right? In fact, if something like that happened, I would almost think the data is doctored. So they're always going to be a little bit different. So I'm really comparing here the population means of the red and green groups. I'm trying to figure out if those two things are different or not. Okay, for number 7, provide the formula for the test statistic for your hypothesis test. Okay, so I know mine is going to be a t equals, I'm trying to keep it lowercase, and you can either type it in, use the equation editor. Some people like to take a quick picture, crop it, and paste it in there. The only thing is, be careful. Your book has several different types of t-tests, so if you're just glancing through the book trying to find the formula, there are going to be many different equations that jump out that say t equals. You have to make sure you're on the one for your group. So I'm doing a 2-sample independent t-test, so I need to go look in the book and find the formula for a 2-sample independent t-test, not any other type of t-test. Okay. And I'm going to let you fill in the rest of that, but I'm also here going to define my terms. So, for example, if I'm talking about a population, if my formula has an N1 in it, and that N1, that 1 would probably be a subscript, typically it would be a lowercase n. I would say this is the population for group 1. And you can say what the group 1 is. Let's say in my case the group 1 is green. Okay. Or whatever we've decided. Is that what we put up there? Actually, we didn't even put a 1 or a 2. Okay. Just make it clear that you actually know what those variables mean. Okay, what those symbols mean. For everything that you use on the right-hand side of this equation, t equals, make sure that there's a definition of that. Okay. And finally, what type of graphs will be useful in explaining your results? You only need to pick one. Be specific and include which variables will be used and how they will be broken down. Okay, so you might have an example of vertical bar chart showing the average age for, say, some study that has an eye color, a scatter plot with height on the horizontal axis and weight on the vertical axis. You can figure out what you want to do. Okay, so put your graph type. Okay, again, you choose. So I might choose, let's see, I think I will choose a bar graph that has sample means on them for each group. Okay. So in that case, my x-axis will be the group or the color. I want to be very specific. I don't want to be general in my actual graph and put group. It should be more specific. Are you talking about gender? Are you talking about color? Are you talking about survival status? What are you talking about? And the y-axis, if I'm doing means, then my y-axis is going to be the weight in grams. And it will just go up as far as the mean for each group. This is just one suggestion that I think would work for my study. Remember, my study is different from your study. I'm looking at green and red M&Ms and their weights. You have an entirely different study, so you find what works for you. Okay. For number 8, you might even sketch this on another piece of paper. Do not include the sketch in your work, but just so you can work out what you might like something to look like. Okay? Students do that all the time. And that's it for this template. So hopefully you watched the video, paused it, okay, and then come back to it, as you make your own progress in your work. Okay? All right, I will see you next time.